evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio, your old friend Virgil back once again for another exciting episode of the podcast. As you guys know, the only podcast dedicated to the love and revival of our beloved drive-in culture. Joined as always by my co-host and general manager extraordinaire, Mark. Say hello, my friend.
Hello.
Joined as well by our owner and projectionist here at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, Jeff. Say hello, my man.
Hi, everybody.
And as we are coming up on almost 100 episodes of this podcast, I just want to take a second to thank everybody who takes the time to support this podcast. It has been one of the most heartwarming and rewarding efforts that we've decided to do here at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater for so many reasons. And the love that we get for this podcast, it is not lost on us in any way. It really does feed the fire, knowing that this goes out there to the entire world. And if they want to get a deep dive on the love of the drive-in culture, they have a place to go. So for today's episode, we decided that we were going to try to review the 2023 season up until now. And since you guys always hear us, we figured to give a little bit of perspective, we'd bring in a fan favorite. You know her. You love her. Mama Beth, our concession manager here at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. Say hello, Mama Beth.
Hello, Mama Beth.
She pulled a Jeff. She's stealing your line. But we were talking about it before we started recording. We are about halfway through the 2023 season. And just like any other year, it sweeps us up. The wave comes and just knocks us over and pulls us in, and it's a swim, you know? So for us to recall all of the things that happened this year, we're going to try our best, as our brains are on about 50 other events that are upcoming and that we're planning for. So let's just start, I guess, right at the top. The 2023 season opener, Wizard of Oz and Willy Wonka. For me, I gotta say, this year felt like a rebirth because that was the first time that the audience got to come in and see the work that we did on that projection system. And it's so fitting that when Dorothy opens up that door and the color changes from black and white to color, it's mind-bending. The picture here at the Mahoning, especially with the color, it's so rich, it pops. It was like watching those movies, which we've seen 9 years in a row opening our season with brand new eyes. So that was really special, and to get all the love, obviously, from everybody. But anything choice jump out for you guys?
Zeneca had a photo op, which she had done last year. The films are always Wizard of Oz and Willy Wonka, and the snack bar was decorated in grand fashion with, candy items and Wizard of Oz items and all that. But she had set up this thing that basically was Oz the Great and Powerful, and it looked like you were talking live to this visual manifestation of the Wizard of Oz, this green face. And it's, I don't know the wizardry behind it. You literally could see the woman behind the curtain if you walked just around the corner from where she was doing it. But as far as some little kids were concerned, they were talking to the real thing. And that's the kind of thing I love that we do, and that our production team and our cosplayers and our photo op crew do, is to create something where a little kid can be fooled into thinking that something walked out of the movie and into their life. And it was just really, really cool to watch. And she was reading all kinds of like the corniest Oz-based jokes. I don't know where they came from, if they were retooled jokes from other joke books, or if there is some kind of Wizard of Oz joke book out there. But it was really funny. And also there was a kid's birthday party there. A little girl had her birthday party there, and it was, I don't remember how many of them there were, 5, 6, 8, 10. So it was a sizable birthday party. And they went into the projection booth, as people can, and got a tour. And our good friend and former podcast guest, Jeff C., was there, who's a film fanatic. And he was he was supplementing Mike Drumbore's knowledge and giving these kids this tour. And I took a couple photos of all of these girls in rapt attention as, you know, the cinematic wizardry of Jeff C was laying upon them the knowledge of how 35 millimeter works. And funny enough, later on, when it came time to pull the winning raffle ticket, we had no winner for the raffle. And these little girls came in and they had a number that was one off from the winning number. And they were really sure that one of the members of their group who had left early before the second film maybe had the winning ticket. And we were like, yeah, sorry, you kind of have to be here to win it. And I said, well, look, if they have the winning ticket and they can send us a photo of the winning ticket and it's the winning ticket, we'll let you guys take the stuff, figuring some kid isn't gonna Photoshop a fake winning ticket to get
right.
And sure enough, I mean, we were like ready to close the doors and close the snack bar for the night, and a photo came through, and the little girl who had left did have the winning ticket, and they were like cheering and screeching and jumping up and down, and they were just like overjoyed that they had won the raffle, or that their friend who wasn't there had won the raffle. And it was just I'm sure it was their first time at the theater, and what an amazing first time for these kids to see how 35 millimeter works and win the raffle at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Yeah. Give the customers a little something extra. When you walk in the concession stand, that's not all you see is concession. You see special setups or maybe a little photo op. You know, we have the big ones outside, but sometimes we have little ones inside. It's just something extra for our customers.
Well, that's what I always tell people. I'm like, even if you're not hungry, if you think you don't want to eat, come into the concession stand and look around and see what there is to see. And it's so much more than just a place where we serve food. No offense, Mama Beth. It's a whole atmosphere in there. It's a place you want to hang out. And then once you smell what's being cooked, you may change your mind about thinking you don't need any food.
Yeah.
Also that weekend too, the theme of this year thus far, heavy rain pretty much all weekend long. And it was amazing. I was saying to somebody, we're showing 2 old movies that we show every year, and huge crowd, huge line waiting to get in. And it was raining the whole time. At times it was pouring, and people still came out and had a great time.
Yeah, great.
That anticipation. People can't wait to get back. First show. How about you, Mama Beth? Anything pop as far as that opening weekend? It was such a process getting the concession stand up and ready and all that stuff. But once people get rolling, it was like they left yesterday, that just starts back up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, my job kind of starts maybe like a couple of weeks beforehand, trying to get all the equipment up and running and everything, and contacting, my crew and making sure that they're available and everything. But I mean, it ran so smooth. It was literally like we didn't even leave. There was no break between the time that we left in October to the time that we opened in April. And it was just great to see. And it's always nice to see those returning families, but a lot of new customers as well. We were actually talking last night about it and how many new people we've had come in this year.
Yeah,
and from lots of different areas too.
Yeah, all over the place. We've been starting to call Tuesdays Newbie Tuesday because the percentage of the audience that comes and tries us out with a little bite-size Mahoning experience on Tuesday, it's crazy. But it's every single weekend. We get those people who are, they've been following us. We want to get to you. And it's really amazing and inspiring again to think that, we're in that infant stages. As many people know us, there's so many that are waiting to get to us, Rolled right into Sunday with Freaked, which was a dream come true 35 millimeter screening supported by the one and only Alex Winter, who sent along a introduction for that show. And talk about rain. As terrible as the rain was on Friday and Saturday of opening, Sunday was religious. It just it kept coming down and would not stop. And this was our first market, mind you. So we had about 20 vendors set up to try our early gate Sunday, and it just kept pouring. But it didn't matter because people came out in droves. They showed up early. They supported the vendors. People had all sorts of limited edition merch, and it was such a hit out the gate. And again, for something that we were trying out, it was a real boost to say, okay, this might work out if we can angle it in the right way. I mean, hell, if we could make it work in a torrential downpour, you know, we can try to make this work on any regular day. So
I mean, that was the thing. It was pouring hard the whole time, and the vendors were all set up almost entirely outside in tents. And
Yep.
people still came out and shopped. And at the end, Sandy had said the vendors all thanked her and said they couldn't wait to come back. Like, they still did okay despite it being pouring rain. And Freaked is such a funny movie that so many people probably don't know about. I don't think it's too easy to see right now. But I had
Yeah.
seen it years earlier because I liked Alex Winter from The Idiot Box, or the show he did on MTV called The Idiot Box, that this movie kind of spun out of. And I was laughing out loud nonstop through that whole movie from almost like minute one. It's so good. And the print looked so good. And it was a great night despite watching it through windshield wipers.
yeah, and it poured through the whole movie, and the amount of people that were like, I am not missing the opportunity to see this movie on 35 millimeter. I don't think anybody left. It was one of those situations where people were just in it to win it.
And people were pouring in the stand too. I mean, we had about 9 or 10 vendors that were inside the stand. And then
We tried our best. Yeah. Once
I said, what are we
that
going to do?
rain-
Like stack them on top of each other inside the
Yeah.
stand. And I'm like trying to refill a condiment table, and you're like weaving out of these vendors and people trying to buy stuff. But it didn't stop anybody from coming, buying tickets at the gate, coming in and enjoying those vendors that were literally on top of each other, buying food in the stand. Like, everybody had such a great time.
And we did our best, you know, trying to keep everybody dry and assure that everybody was going to have a great time, not knowing, all right, are people even going to show up? And yeah, it's amazing to see that, you know, everything we've been trying out this year for whatever reason is clicking, you know?
Yeah.
That rolled us into our experiment, which was single day events this year. And, you know, being that you guys are the listeners, you may wonder why we did that. So our whole thought behind that was to try out something new that wouldn't rely on the overnight experience, if you will, the connected days. So right out the gate, we started with remake double take with Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And then we had Bill and Ted's excellent double feature on that Saturday. And then the Tenacious D show on that Sunday. So I can say it, of all the memories, like, that is my most memorable weekend. I proposed to Nancy on that weekend. For those that didn't see it, I covered some Tenacious D with my buddy Scotty Goddard, and surprised Nancy with the help of many of the crew members here, and popped the question, and she said yes. And and the thought behind that was like, we're going to start this year off in the best way possible. And, you know, to have that work out was pretty incredible.
And it was so magical to see you singing one of the filthiest songs I might have ever heard publicly to the unwitting object of your proposal, and have your children right there singing along. And it was I just thought it was perfect.
In true, you know, Verge fashion.
Yep. Yeah.
Put that little theatrical twist on it, you know? Yeah, it was a great time. But remake double take. So this was one people have been asking for so long, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And it was amazing. Like, we had the fandom come out. It was the first book club that we did. So we were able to launch that off in a deeper appreciation sense. And yeah, my memories from that weekend are deep, but that show went incredibly well and dry, if I'm not mistaken. And it was like Alex Winter week because he also supported our Bill and Ted show. He sent us an intro for that as well, which huge shout out to Mark for connecting the dots on that one.
Sometimes you ask and they just say yes. And that's we've been getting very lucky this season with celebrity actor, writer, director intros. I find their contact info and tell them who we are and what we do and ask nicely.
It levels up, you know, it really levels up an event, which we'll talk about with Muppets and our most recent event with Ninja Turtles. It takes the fandom to a whole other level when you have the stars and the creators getting involved in this thing. I mean, if you would have told me in 2014 when we partnered up, Jeff, that we'd be having Alex Winter do an intro, or the amazing guests that we have doing intros, it was unheard of that we would be on their radar. But you hear them saying our name and you're like, oh my God.
Right. We're getting out there more and more. And more of the people in the entertainment profession recognize our name and they want to do intros for us. And I think it's fantastic the way this is branching out. And we're getting more and more famous people all the time.
Or you see them sharing on the social medias as well, you know, on the Twitter, on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that support, you know, it really has become that support system with everything that we've gone through over our going on 10 years now next year. It's one of those things that people can really get behind. And the fact that Hollywood and the stars of the movies get behind it is pretty amazing. But that Bill and Ted event, same situation. Fandom came out supreme. We had multiple cosplayers. What was the special for that night? Did you do that like
That was the most excellent burger with the nacho cheese, the chips, the popcorn. Yes.
Oh,
I think everybody was scared by it, to be honest with you. But anybody who had it said it worked really, really well. So
yeah, absolutely. I think it adds, you know, again, that extra layer for people. It adds to the event. Just like last night, we screened Napoleon Dynamite on 35 millimeter. And I kept saying on the radio, is it even a screening of Napoleon Dynamite if you're not eating tots while watching it? Like,
well, I wasn't there, and I looked at our Square register that I can see from anywhere and keep an eye on what our numbers are. And the number 2 most popular item under tickets was tots. And I just thought it just said Tuesday ticket and under that tots.
I think I sold like 32 orders last night, but I put out a board and I said, you know, with a movie quote, and I was like, you know, but put some chili and cheese on those tots. That makes them even better, you know?
Cannibal Holocaust on that Tuesday the 9th. Oh my goodness. So we push the envelope all the time. We put our disclaimers up in the write-ups as far as, hey, this movie's extreme. Don't bring kids. Nobody under 17, whatever the case is.
If you like animals, you may want to give it a pass.
Totally.
Yeah, Exhumed's been hitting the Italian cannibal films hard on Tuesdays this year.
Which is what they made their name on. Like we have to keep reminding ourselves that is, you know, truly when they got their start, they were playing the really rough stuff that nobody else could screen, nobody else could see. And it kind of started their name. So it's natural, you know, that he would push that envelope and try that out. And it's nothing new for us, you know. I think we've played this one before. Am I wrong, Mark?
No, we did play it.
I believe we did. Yeah. It was during, was it a Diodato weekend or an Italian?
That was it.
It was early on in the retro thing. Yeah. It might have been like the first or second year. And it was like, I didn't go to it, but it was edgy Italian. It was either cannibal or just Italian horror stuff.
Yes. Yep. Oh, gosh.
Yes. Because Jeff and I wouldn't attend. We were like, that's just not our thing. So,
yeah. And it was amazing because, you know, the funniest line of the night was, Beth said, gosh, the amount of vegans that show up for these type of movies.
It'll make you a vegan.
That out. I was like, do you think it's going to be a vegan night? Because everybody knows that I offer vegan and vegetarian options in the stand. And I said, I bet we're not going to sell any. And I sold more vegan burgers on that Tuesday night than I sell any other night. I couldn't believe it.
I'm telling you, it's that crowd. And even when I was out promoting in the off season, I would hand out calendars, which would have pretty much that whole May calendar lined up, and Cannibal Holocaust just jumps out at you, you know. So I'm handing it to a family. I'm like, oh, come up, we got some greats, and Cannibal Holocaust jumps in their face. But the amount of people at the punk rock flea markets that were like, oh my God, I am not missing that. That's my favorite movie. I mean, you got to question that, but at the same time, it's like, it really is a means to tap the audience, which, you know, if you love the Mahoning, you know it. Our kind of mission statement is trying to tap as many genres, fan bases, loves of film as we can. And there is, you know, a big fan base for that type of stuff. So I just love that he did it right out the gate. He wasn't messing around.
And I think that was one of the ones that we had the lower pre-sales for, but the sales at the gate were incredible. Like people coming and buying their tickets at the gate.
Yeah. I mean, Mark can probably attest to this too, but like on the social medias, these very hard, edgy movies are harder to sell. Even like sharing the poster.
Well,
I'm just,
yeah.
all right, I'm worried that we're going to get tagged as like,
Yeah.
you know, an explicit post or something.
So it's like I try to
But-
post in the event pages for everything. I try to post the trailer, and for some things, it's like I don't know if I should even put the trailer in there.
I mean, that's edgy, baby. You know, I just love that our fandom and our fan base is so in tuned with the calendar that they're not going to miss it. You know, as much work and push as we do, it's like I think people have to go out of their way to try to make sure they know when those events are coming.
Yeah.
So they knew.
I had never seen this movie before. And as I was leaving, I had a cheeseburger in my hand, and Rob was like, "You might want to wait because there's a scene with the turtle."
Oh,
and
the
I
turtle.
actually, I walked out, and Beck and I were like, you know, it was like you telling Virgil, "Keep your head down, keep your head down," and go get in our car. I'm literally facing the screen. I turn over the truck. I'm like trying to get my cheeseburger out. I'm putting ketchup on it. And they're like massacring this turtle. And I could never look at a cheeseburger the same way after that. I just couldn't do it. I will always associate a Mahoning cheeseburger with that poor little turtle.
With that image. Yeah, it was
That's
amazing how well the concession sales did. You know, it's like not the most appetizing, you know, movie to watch.
Yeah, that's a film where you want those concession sales up front.
Yeah.
Like if there was an intermission to be had, it probably would have been a little light on the food.
Yeah.
Everybody asked me if I sold a lot of hot dogs.
Would be very fitting. Very fitting. We rolled into our RoboCop versus Terminator weekend, which was a huge smash. RoboCop 1 and 2 on Friday night, Terminator 1 and 2 on Saturday night. And the way we promoted it was vote with your ticket. Who is the bigger, who's the better? And yeah, Terminator won by far. Who knows if it's because he was on Saturday or if it's the more loved. But boy, oh boy, the fandom came out for both. Saturday was close to a sellout. You know, whenever we play Terminator or Terminator 2, the fandom comes out big time. And a good memory from that, our buddy Nick Squallance of the Reapers brought a standee of the T1000. And he let us borrow it, and Mr. Bones showed up and was able to throw together a photo op in like no time. Like lightning was coming off of him and all that stuff. And I love whenever that happens. It's like very Little Rascals in that sense of like, let's work with what we got, you know? So he spun some magic that weekend, that's for sure.
Better than that was my Detroit Wiener special. Just gonna say. Because Mark kept sending me all the Instagram posts as people were talking about having a Detroit Wiener out in the parking lot. I think the one was, "This was the most fun I've had at the drive-in with my wiener," or something along those lines.
Put that on a t-shirt.
A classy crap.
And then that Sunday, we had Blade Runner, which interesting stories behind that one for sure. I don't know if they're ones that we want to share publicly, but there was I'll say there was some juggling going on with the prints. We were able to run the 35mm print, but it was quite a juggle, as it is sometimes, either getting a print here on time, getting it here in the right condition that you want it. But the boys on the projection team have been an absolute dream this year, organizing the amount of shows that we're doing, the amount of prints that are coming through, not just in, but out. And that was a real pressure cooker for them to know whether or not, shit, are we going to be able to make this show happen down to the wire? But we made it all work. And in a weird way, these little happenings that happen even down to the rain can make an event for you, make it more memorable for you.
I was there, and my Jeff actually took Monday off so we could sit outside and watch it because I was not missing seeing that movie on the screen. I've wanted to see it for years like that. So, and it was just beautiful.
It was so
It was.
gorgeous. And again, you know, just like every single night, the fandom came out. We had people cosplaying. We had people super into the idea of seeing their favorite movie presented on 35mm. And it's in a weird way, Harry has really expanded what he does on Tuesdays this year, which, you know, personally, I have appreciated. And I think the fan base as well has appreciated. We've had some really good turnouts for what you wouldn't expect Exhumed to program, as far as like comedies, some new age comedies. But it's really great to see that he's using the platform here to try some stuff out, just like we are every single year. But one that certainly could have been a Sunday essential for us, Straw Dogs on the 16th. That print was flawless. That movie is challenging, which we said in the promotions. Movies are meant to be seen. Movies are meant to be discussed. I think it was Sandy when we did our very first interview with her. She talked about the experience of seeing I Spit on Your Grave and then having a deep discussion with her mother. And the movie was the cater to that, the intro to that. And just like Straw Dogs can be challenging, it's a launching point for discussion. But memory for me was taking that movie in and having it look so gorgeous. Trying to remember, it was a pretty good turnout. I don't think any rain on that Tuesday.
Yeah, not from what I remember. I remember going out to take the garbage out and coming back in. I've never seen the movie before. And I think Mike was running it that night. And I actually went into him and I said the color and the print, it was stunning. It was just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. And again, with the projection being really up to snuff this year, these prints just pop. And that's the difference when you're watching it on 35 millimeter, especially when it's that right print in the right condition. It's just fantastic. What was our next weekend there, Mark?
We started off, it was May 19th, with the Drive-In Icon series Pam Grier double feature of Coffee, which was a 50th anniversary screening, and Foxy Brown. And we had a video intro from Jack Hill, the director of both those films, director of a lot of classic 70s AIP New World exploitation movies. He did a really cool several minute long introduction for us to kick off that double feature, which sadly I missed. And I'm a huge Pam Grier fan, and those are my two favorite films of hers, but life got in the way, unfortunately.
That was a mind bender, by the way. You know, we try to get these intros as often as possible. When Mark locked that one in, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? A legend, you know, truly a legend, somebody who broke new ground. And it was really great to see him still loving on his work all these years later. What was after that on that Saturday?
That Saturday was a little thing we like to call Muppets Take Mahoning.
Holy moly. So
that was an unbelievable show.
And up to date, our biggest crowd of the year showed up for that Muppets show. Was a sellout, actually over our safe sellout number. And to see the fandom come out, it was unbelievable. I'm talking about people with their own Muppets, people doing on-the-spot sing-alongs, people gathering in sections and calling their friends, and it was the magic that you really can't plan on, you know? And I can admit it, we were working on this event for over a year. Gene Beretta, the great Gene Beretta, and it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work over 2 days. You know, at the time we were talking about bringing guests out over the intros, which we ultimately did, and the podcast angle that we ultimately did. Mm-hmm. But it was the best move ever, I think, to use the single day Saturday as the testing ground for something to become an annual, because there's really no way to tell. That's the unfortunate thing. Sometimes you think something's going to connect like crazy with a fan base, and it's just so, you know? And people who are fans of the Mahoning, you know it. We're on like our 8th, 9th year with some of these annuals. When things work, we like to stick with them. So it becomes a situation where Muppets made itself an annual this year. It showed its power. The fans showed its power. And, you know, having the perfect partner and truly friend in Gene made that event. He truly made that event. As much, you know, planning and magic as we put into it, he was able to line up gosh, what did he have? Over 12 introductions from different people. We're talking, voices of your favorite characters in the Muppets and beyond. Not just for the original Muppets, but for the new Muppets movie as well. So, for those who don't know, we've talked about it. Gene is the brother of Bill Beretta, who is pretty much the head of Henson at this point. He's the director of all the movies, multiple voices, but right in there. And the timing was perfect with Muppets Mayhem, which just dropped on Disney Plus at the beginning of the year. So this event, in a weird way, was like a launching pad into Muppets Mayhem. And people loved it. People were going crazy. What were your guys' memories on Muppets?
Well, one of my favorites is I was walking the lot and with a huge smile on my face, and I'm watching all these people with a puppet on their hand having conversations with other puppets. It was a group of puppets talking to each other with people standing behind them. It was crazy. And somebody did like a giant Floyd, Floyd from the Electric Mayhem. That was like a giant Floyd head with a normal body. The costumes were incredible. And, during the Zoom Beretta Brothers vodcast, they called you in, or you were part of it. And then Brian Henson just shows up.
Oh my gosh. How could I almost forget that? Yeah, so it's just mind bending when these things happen, but Gene and Bill, we were talking about it very early on, when we were first starting planning this event. And again, this was over a year before the event actually happened. And I was like, is there any chance we could get Brian to do an introduction or get Henson behind it so we could say the Mahoning Drive-In Theater and the Henson Company present, and those guys pulled the wool over my eyes. I don't know. I mean, I guess Gene must have known, but Bill really set that up to reveal. And anybody who wants to watch my brain explode inside my head can watch that on the vodcast, which went out. It's hilarious. Like, I just take a step back with a huge gasp, like, what? Are you kidding me? But fantastic. I mean, again, who could have asked for better, or could it get any better when you're doing a fan Muppets event? Then have Brian Henson show up as a secret guest. That's mind-bending. And fans went nuts.
And Gene led a sing-along on Rainbow Connection that was just one of the most glorious moments I've witnessed at the theater.
Oh, tear to the eye. Like,
absolutely.
It reminds, there's so many times that it reminds us why we do this. And the community coming together and singing along, swaying back and forth. Like, where else can you get that love? Where else can you get that type of community love? It's really a beautiful thing that I think makes the Mahoning stand out. Anybody can show the Muppets, but adding this icing on top and the appreciation that fans bring to it. Even with Turtles, it was really a situation where it's like we set the stage for it to be a huge fan event, and the fans brought the fandom. It doesn't matter what we do. Like, they are coming with that fandom on their chest. They are dressing up. They are doing everything that they can to make this their fan experience. And it really helps every single weekend.
Yep. The last thing I had on my list for the Muppets was something I wanted to prompt Jeff to talk about. And because I didn't have this experience at all, but apparently a woman from the Ukraine was visiting us that night, and you got to talk to her.
Yes. Oh, that was great. She came into the booth, and she had like a sponsor with her because they got her out of the Ukraine. She was about high school age, and they gave her a place to live in our country just to get her away from the war. And she had never been to a drive-in theater because they don't have any in Ukraine. They don't have any there, never have. And so she was just bowled away and had no idea who the Muppets were, no idea whatsoever. So this was all brand new to her, not only the Muppets, but the location, the drive-in, and she was having a blast. She was just having a great time and couldn't believe that something like this, where you drive cars in and point them at a screen and you watch a movie on a huge screen, she just never couldn't believe that something like that existed. So it was a real treat having her in there and showing her the projectors. It's stuff that she had never seen before her entire life. And she was a high school student. It was incredible.
Another element of that night that just like made it
Yeah,
unforgettable.
exactly.
Anything stand out for you, Mamba?
Well, Gene had reached out to us, and he actually came up with the special for that night, which was the Manama Nachos.
Oh, yes.
And he put together that big, beautiful board for me that's now on the door in the concession stand. And I think it's amazing that people still walk by and they're like, look, that was the special for the Muppets. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was funny as people were walking through the stand and they had their puppets and whatever else. My crew was like looking at each other like, these people are crazy. Like, what's wrong with these people?
Well, being crazy helps.
As people are coming up, like customers are coming up and they're like, oh, this is my Muppet, so-and-so. And they're like trying to talk to them. And they're all looking like, these people need to be committed.
Only talk to the Muppet. Don't talk to me. The Muppet would like some Manama Nachos.
Yes. Yeah, but Gene is fantastic. It's always great to see him. It's always great to see his son. Yeah, and that was a fantastic special.
Yeah, and such a supporter, and like I said, friend. Like, you know, I've had this guy over for dinner. You know, his son is great friends with myself, and he loves Virgil. He's a fantastic guy all around. Rolling into Sunday, our first Sunday essential, Badlands on 35mm. Terrence Malick finally. And we had an okay crowd. The weather was great, but very much reminded me of that Night of the Hunter crowd, where the people that were there were so appreciative that we were playing this movie. One of my favorite movies, and I got to lay in that hammock and experience it wash over me. The next Tunnel Vision Tuesday, if I remember correctly, was Bird with the Crystal Plumage, the very first film of Dario Argento. And we had a lot of people on the lot who had never experienced that movie. And if you haven't seen it, it delivers. It really does. And is the early showings of a maestro. Great turnout for that one. Trying to think. I mean, honestly, I remember we were in full prep mode for Zombie Fest, which, you know, we've talked about it many times on this podcast. It is the launching point for our season, always has been.
Yeah.
And is for most drive-ins. You know, it's Memorial Day weekend. All the kids are getting off of school. Summer is on the mind. And Zombie Fest was a monster this year. Sellout on Saturday. Very close to sellout on Friday. And the lineup was incredible. Seeing Demon Knight up on that screen played so incredibly well with the crowd. Carnival of Souls, we closed out Saturday with. And you know it, when we do a triple feature, it is a long night. So watching Carnival of Souls in a half day's sleepy state.
It's such a dreamlike movie anyway. So to see that, you know, on a really quiet lot with a little bit of a breeze blowing on you through your car or on you, and your mind kind of melds with that movie.
Yeah.
And I think we didn't have any rain, which was so weird because normally Zombie Fest, we always have rain.
That's what we say, the Zombie Fest curse.
And it was absolutely beautiful. The weather was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was stunning. And Dead Heat as well was on Sunday. That was one that played really, really well. Never screened, you know, in one of those movies even where you're like, what is this? You know? Really great and timed really well. I think Treat Williams, the star, he would pass away not even a month later. The Friday of Werewolf Weekend, we were set to play Teen Wolf and Silver Bullet, and we were down without power, which this doesn't happen often. We'll get power flicker, you know, power will go down for a little bit and come back on, but it was down for hours, literally hours, to the point where 6 o'clock came. And, you know, we still didn't have power. And our thought process behind it, certainly Jeff's thought process behind it, is it's got to turn on by showtime.
I would think,
We'll be fine if it turns on by showtime. So we had people come up. We set the stage for a big fan event. And 9 o'clock rolls around, or whenever showtime was, and we still didn't have power.
Right.
And I think we held out for even an extra hour beyond that. We might have went until like
we kind of went to 10 o'clock before we canceled.
Yeah, and then we kind of I'll never forget. Mark was going around with the bullhorn because we had no way to get on the radio.
Right.
and telling people, we will honor your tickets tomorrow. If anybody wants to stay, we're going to do a reading by the photo op, which was one of the most beautiful moments of the year. Louis, one of our newest volunteers here for the merch stand, is such a believer in what we do and such a lover of what we do and fan. He really saved that show. What he did was he broke out the book that Silver Bullet is based on, and he read it cover to cover in the darkness with headlights pointing at him, and saved that show. People stuck around. People appreciate it. It took hours, but that was a real eye-opener to say, oh my goodness, we were still able to keep fans happy with literally no power and no movies.
Right.
And then what projection team offered was, let's make Saturday night a quadruple feature and show the films we couldn't show on Friday.
Right.
Show those second. Was after the stated double feature for Saturday. For anybody who could make it, they would still get all those movies. And for anybody who was just going to come on Saturday, they got 4 movies for the price of 2.
Yep.
And it was a marathon. It was a marathon.
It was. It worked out well.
And that's the thing. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Sometimes the stress comes through on the podcast, but it's like you never know what you're going to get running a business. That's kind of the situation that you've gotten yourself into, is any single night, anything can happen. And how you react, how you pivot, how you continue on really makes all of the difference, And in that case, it was just so amazing to see not just the fans rally together, but the crew rally together.
Yeah.
We got so many messages from people saying how great a time they had on Friday night, and they literally did not get what they paid for. They came out to watch movies. They were sitting there in the dark and hanging out, and sort of we're all in this together kind of thing. And they got Louis reading Cycle of the Werewolf on this fantastic set the production team had put together. JT had rented from Frazetta's this giant 7-foot werewolf, and he and Bones put up a backdrop and lit it, and it was just this really cool atmosphere, lit Corman style with a couple of car headlights. And people still told us how great a time they had. And I was like apologizing. They're like, "Oh no, it's not your fault. We had a blast." Okay.
And then that Sunday, our second market of the year, with the Retro Toy Show featuring Pee-wee's Big Adventure. This was one that caught us by storm. We had a feeling that this was going to do well with the pre-sales, but it gave us our biggest drive-ups of the season. People came out in droves, like literally with their grandmothers and their kids, all the way down the line to come and see Pee-wee on that big screen. We had the amazing screen-accurate replica bike, and it was incredible to see people lose their mind, get great photos. The big memory of the night was the multiple Pee-wees. We didn't have one, we didn't have two. We had like 8 different Pee-wees show up on the lot, young and old, boys and girls all over the place. And it was just amazing to see, again, an experiment work. Big Kid Toy Store, who put on that show with us, connected the dots with some great vendors. They are brought the absolute heat when it comes to the vintage toys, just what people would want at a vintage toy show. And Big Kid has been back for multiple shows since and really make an event when it comes to, the toy aspect of any fandom. Turtles, for instance, which we just got through last weekend, was incredible. They had a whole setup, 2 tables full of classic nostalgic Turtles. Old, new, all of it. So that was one I'll never forget.
That weekend, or that night, also introduced us to a young 11-year-old genius named Clark.
Oh, yeah.
Holy Jesus, Clark.
So
Yes.
he showed up, I think wearing a Hawaiian shirt, as he often does, and he knows his stuff. So he came into the projection booth very quiet and was talking to us, and he had double feature suggestions, and they were on the money.
Yeah.
And he knows old, well, to him, certainly old movies, to us, older movies, and has come back several times, but it's just super fun to talk to. And we were joking that, he's eyeing Virgil's job. Like, he was ready to program the next season of the theater. So it was cool meeting him, and it's always fun when he comes back.
I was standing in the projection room, and he was giving you the John Waters movies you should play for John Waters weekend. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It was mind-bending. Literally the coolest 11-year-old and most movie knowledgeable 11-year-old I've ever met in my entire life. And of course, he gravitates to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater.
Yeah.
But this kid has become a true friend. Like, it's weird to say that, that we're friends with an 11-year-old. But his mother is an absolute dream, supports his love of film like I've never seen a mother do. It's inspiring. And you can tell, like, this kid is going to be something when he grows up, like something in the film industry. He's so in love with it already. And there's several kids who come and are regulars at the Mahoning. And the amount of love that they have for the place, it's like I will talk to those kids all day long, even at nauseum, because it just warms my heart to no end that, like, this is their place. Like, this is their Bucks County twin, like it was for me,
And one of those kids that weekend was walking around having all the staffers sign his baseball, which was really interesting. Occasionally people will have us like sign the DVD cover for at the drive-in, available now on finer streaming services. The documentary but a baseball, it was just kind of cool.
Yeah, love those kids for sure. The next generation, they keep asking me, like, at what age can we go pump the butter? I was like, go talk to Mama Beth. And then that Tuesday, Tunnel Vision Tuesday, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So this is a great story. So the Canada fires brought a smoke throughout the entire East Coast and I guess beyond. But it was such a strange thing to wake up one morning and just like, it almost looked like Night of the Comet, the way that sepia tone kind of color comes through. It was the weirdest thing. And that night they actually put a warning out about the air quality. And we decided, hey, let's run. Oh, no, it was the Wednesday they put out the air quality warning after that screening. But watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a kind of orange sky, Texas dust sky, it was, one of those things, again, you couldn't plan if you wanted to. Another touch of magic. And again, print looked awesome. Movie plays like a dream. People love that movie. So that was a fantastic one.
Well, and that happened. We had got messages, people saying, are you still doing a show with the air quality situation? And it's just like, rain or shine.
Yep, exactly.
As long as you can see the image, it's up to you whether you want to breathe or not.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got into an interesting weekend with Freaky Friday, Cusack Attack, and The Room. So pretty much what had happened was the projectors had gone down because of a lightning strike. We were able to get them up and running. And then all of a sudden, when we went to strike on that Friday, they wouldn't strike. Like, they would not strike for the life of us.
That's when we started having all the voltage problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they get too much voltage, they shut down as a protection. And there's no way you can get them to work.
Yeah. And, as many of you guys know, if you listen to the podcast, we brought in new rectifiers this year for the means of if something goes wrong, we have the means to fix it and the connections to get it repaired. But in this case, the voltage that was coming off of the road after the repair was simply too high and causing the rectifiers to not strike up, which means you can't light the bulbs, which means you can't run 35 millimeters.
Right.
So that Friday was a total juggle. We're always prepared with digital backups, so we were able to run the show digitally. But that weekend, we pretty much had to run digital because we had to get the tech to come in, do the voltage readings until we figured out we were pulling in too much voltage, do the research to figure out that that's the reason that these things aren't striking up,
Right.
and then reach out to PPL and get them to adjust the voltage on the pole, which is not a quick or easy process. Right. So luckily, we had already planned a digital showing with Cusack. The Room, I think, was the biggest heartbreaker. We brought in a rare 35 millimeter print of The Room, which we showed before digitally, but we're able to get the print for this screening with Greg Sestero. And unfortunately, we weren't able to run it because we just did not have the means to strike up the bulbs. But that was still an incredible event. The fans came out like crazy. Greg loves what we do here at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. So whenever he comes out, it's just an absolute treat. And sometimes we can get away with the digital presentation. Tuesdays is not one of those cases. So we had still not had things figured out for our Bullet in the Head screening, maybe one of our rarest Tuesday screenings of the season. So we made the decision to cancel that show. Very first time in our 9-year run, going on 10 years, that we ever canceled a show.
Right.
And traditionally, if it weren't an exhumed show, we would let the audience know what's happening. We would choose to go digital. But in this case, it's such a rare 35 millimeter screening. We would be doing not just the fans a disrespect, but also the makers of the movie, So we paused on that one. That one got rescheduled for September, I believe, right before Weekend of Terror. So a really interesting week as far as the behind the scenes action going on over that weekend. But everything was able to get up and running by the time we hit our haunted house party with Grady Hendrix. And I can't say enough about Grady. I know we've said it many times on the podcast. We watched this guy grow. We actually watched him grow. So I think he was at the Mahoning year 2 or 3 with his first book, signing, giving away posters, all sorts of fun stuff. And now Grady has become like the most coveted horror author out there, to the point where every single book that he writes is optioned even before it hits the market, it seems. So Grady is a treat. He hung out until like 2 a.m. signing with everybody. If my memory serves, rain?
It was. And his line zigzagged inside the stand.
Oh, right. We did our best, man. That was crazy, yes. And
his
at a certain
line was
point,
longer than mine.
Oh, yeah, it was nuts. I mean, everybody was in that line waiting to sign, because Grady doesn't charge for autographs or photos. And like, if you want attention at a table, don't charge for autographs and photos. Every single person that came on that lot was going through and meeting Grady and getting their FaceTime with Grady. The hardest point was when he had to do his show portion of the night, about a half-hour presentation on the screen. He had a massive line that unfortunately we had to say, hey, look, he's going to have to take a break and do this part of the show, and then he'll be back.
And they all stayed where they were in line, like in lawn chairs, like they were camping out for concert tickets or for the new Star Wars movie. And they watched from like way off to the sides in line his presentation, so they wouldn't lose their space, because he was taking as long as anybody wanted with him, which is great if you're a fan. It's very personal attention. But the line, it didn't move very quickly, and it was long both nights.
Yeah. We'll never forget Sandy up on that chair commanding the crowd. She is incredible when it comes to helping out those guests.
I had flashbacks to that classic clip that I watched annually of the Toys R Us manager holding the aluminum baseball bat, screaming at all the mothers who wanted Cabbage Patch Kids back in 1984 because they were like a throng. That's all I could see, because she stood up and she wasn't yelling at anybody. She was just explaining how it was going to work. But it was a magic moment.
Yeah, they could have easily started tossing books at her and been like, "Get her!" It was nuts. She really stepped it up and commanded. I was just like, that's the teacher in her. I was just like, she's not afraid to jump up in front of 100 people and command them down. It was glorious. But screenings went amazingly. Fan base, again, it was nuts. I said it. If Grady would have come on Sunday for Stepfather, people would have come and stood in line. You know? That screening of Stepfather was fantastic. Great programming with it falling on Father's Day. I love that movie. We all got to experience it together at the 24-hour-thon of 2021. I guess 2020. And it's such a great crowd movie that when the opportunity came to program it, it's like, yeah, we got to do this. Terry O'Quinn knocking it out the park. Again, with the eclectic programming on Tuesdays, National Lampoon's Vacation. So talk about Newbie Tuesday. This brought out people who just drove by the marquee and was like, I know that movie. Right turn, So it really worked out. As much work as we do to try to cater to the locals, it really is people traveling in every single weekend to support the Mahoning. It's really nice when we can connect with the local fan base, and they came out for National Lampoon's Vacation in a big way. Was that one that you got to watch, Mama Beth?
No, I think I went home that day.
Yeah, Tuesdays are tough. Literally, Mama Beth has to get here at like 10 o'clock in the morning, start receiving orders. And depending on the crowd, you'll stay. Like last night, I joked as I was shutting down the digital projector, I was like, Mama Beth's going on hour 17, just so you guys know.
Yeah, well, they wanted to have a fire last night, so sometimes I hang around.
Yeah.
No, it's so important for the camaraderie. You know what I mean? Like those early years in that barrel fire, it was like our secret trick. It's like, how do you guys all get along so well? It's like, well, we powwow by the fire every night.
Mhm.
So it's beautiful that tradition's carried on with the young staff. The Jaws and the Jerk screening, am I right? That's coming up next, right, Mark?
That was so cool. We had Carl Gottlieb. It was our first ever screenwriter spotlight where we chose 2 films that the same person had written. And we had Carl Gottlieb, legendary screenwriter of Jaws and The Jerk and Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour and Dr. Detroit and on and on and on. He came out to sign autographs, kiss hands, and shake babies, as I like to say. And he was so accommodating. We had a VIP aspect to that show where people could get a photo with Carl in the projection booth holding a reel of the film. And he was just super nice and accommodating. And Sandy did a book club based on his book, The Jaws Log, which was his book about the making of Jaws. And we asked if he would want to come and say hello to the members of that book club who were there to discuss it. And he came in and he sat down with them and he held court for like an hour, telling stories and about filmmaking, about Jaws, about life. And I just was so happy for those club members who really didn't know that that's what they were going to be getting that night.
It was so nuts because we didn't mention it during the haunted house, but Grady did the same thing.
Right.
He hung out for like the whole entire meeting. And it was one of those things when we started the book club, it wasn't meant to be star-studded, but when we have these guests and they're like, oh, a book club? I'm an author. So it really, really lent to the fandom. And, we say it, whenever you play Jaws, people come. Yeah. It's maybe the most programmed movie at drive-ins, but we had to tap into it. And we tried to drop it right around July 4th, perfect timing. But it really worked out with us dropping it 2 weeks earlier because it was the anniversary and everything kept getting shared on social medias about Jaws Day this, Jaws Day that. And it was right on people's radar. Shark Week fell on that same exact week. So again, divine sometimes when it comes to the programming.
Yeah, and we had my Shark Bite special.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God.
Shark Bite special. Rob and Krista ran over to Giant to get him a tomato so he could have a tomato on his hamburger.
That's right. Carl was like, you guys don't have fresh cut tomato?
And then later on in the night, he had us make him tater tots with a cut up hot dog in it, which then Jeff saw him eat. And then Jeff wanted that as well.
Well, I think the Gottlieb was born.
Jeff
comes in. I'll take the Gottlieb.
I never thought about this ever. Tater tots and hot dogs?
How about
Why not?
Thanks, Carl. And then on that Saturday, Cannonball Run fan event. That's one we'll never forget. Mark did a bang-up job connecting to the fandom, getting out multiple cars, folks who have made the run.
It was so cool.
To see those movies was just so great.
Like the print that I thought we were going to get for that fell through, so they were both digital, but we had an Adrienne Barbeau introduction, which was just warmed my heart that she would do that. And a preview of a new Cannonball documentary that's coming and some other fun stuff, a super rare Cannonball related thing we played after the movies. And we had a couple guys who had done the run recently. They'd driven their car from New York to LA at record speed, and the stories they had. And we had a friend of mine who shall remain anonymous, who dresses up as Captain Chaos, Dom DeLuise from the movie, and he looks exactly like him. So he showed up, and it was just hanging out with the car guys was just the coolest. And they were just happy to talk to anybody and share their stories. And some of the stories they had are just unbelievable. So it was a night. You let me do it once before, and you let me do it again. I programmed the night exactly specifically for me, and we charged other people to come and join us, and it was just it was wonderful.
Well, you know what I love is, your organization, your attention to detail, your willingness and wanting for the event to go as smoothly as possible, not just for your crew, but for the people involved, the fans, all that. It's a dream come true.
It was for me.
Yeah.
It's my favorite movie.
I was so excited.
Oh, and
I went out and I watched it.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I didn't miss that one.
Yeah, I thought it was a great selection. I mean, sometimes you run classics and they don't do quite as well as you think they're going to do. But then in the end, you don't care because the people that came really wanted to see it. and it was just a great night overall anyway. So that's the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. That Sunday, we closed the weekend out with yet another market with our drive-in punk rock flea market / vinyl market with Rock and Roll High School. Let me just give a shout out to Dave Wright. Dave Wright is an ultra fan of the Mahoning. He's a volunteer whenever he's on the lot, willing to jump in, and has been for many years. He's a lover of 35 millimeter and also the music culture. I don't know if I know anybody more knowledgeable about the kind of punk movement than Dave Wright. So what he did for us was not only connect the dots with Asbury Park, who was our co-sponsor for the evening and also their vending with amazing records. He connected the dots with Take It Dee Dee. He's friends with some of the band members. They are a Ramones cover band. And normally what we do when we have bands out is we put them underneath of the screen and we have them play. It makes sense. The power is all there. Folks can come up and get involved. Being that it was a Sunday, it was a smaller crowd. We had vendors all kind of set up, not under the screen, but along the building. We made the decision to put them on the photo op stage. It was one of the coolest moments ever at the Mahoning to see pretty much the Ramones come back to life and rock out for a good 40 minutes on a legitimate stage. I don't know how you guys felt about it. It got really loud, but man, did they rock.
They were so much fun. And the stand actually quieted down. So we all came out of the stand to actually be able to see them play. And Becca said, how did we get the Ramones here? This is so great. And Dave goes with a shovel, like without it, like with a shovel. That's what he said.
I just love seeing the kids out there boogieing to the rock and roll.
Yeah, and it meant so much to people. You know, you had people there with their kids rocking out, knowing every word. It was fantastic. Again, connecting to the fandom.
And a fun t-shirt that picked on the concession stand, not serving pizza.
You know, Tom sent me the design. He's like, is this okay? I was like, you better ask Mama Beth if that's okay. It was the Ramones characters, and they all had little word bubbles above their head. And one was like, oh, we're going to the drive-in. I'm going to sneak in the trunk. And the one says, got Moxie, and do they have pizza? That's like, I feel attacked.
It's okay. It's fine. I got big shoulders. It's fine.
That's right, baby. That's right. And that Tuesday, whenever we can bring Arnold to the screen, like we said for Terminator, the fandom comes out. Total Recall on 35 millimeter. Absolutely bonkers Verhoeven goodness. Fantastic screening. Print looked great. It was a fantastic night weather-wise, if I'm remembering correctly as well. And really every Tuesday has done very well this year. You know, we were talking about it last night in the booth about it finding its audience and having this kind of core base that always comes every Tuesday. I don't know if it's that, you know, because as much as we have the regulars come out, it's people coming in and trying things out, trying us out, I guess I should say, and giving it a little taste. But it's certainly been a nice average for Tuesdays. And we got a great compliment with somebody saying they came back at somebody who was like, oh, it's on a Tuesday. They were like, this is genius to program things like this on a Tuesday because it's a day that people don't normally go to the movies. It's a hook to get you there. And like we always say, what are we going to play garbage on Tuesday? Tuesday,
and everybody wanted to win that raffle.
Nobody wants to see. Oh,
everybody wanted to win the raffle because there was the pin with the lady with the 3 boobies.
That's right.
So everybody put in for that raffle.
Yep.
Yep, them 3 boobies on 35 mil. I'm telling you, we made some.
I might have tossed a couple bucks in on the raffle. I'm just saying.
Well,
I wanted the pin.
If you're going to have a female mutant, you might as well have 3 boobies.
That's right. Screenwriter literally turned and did a chef's kiss after he wrote that.
I stayed and I worked that night with Zoe, and Zoe goes, what's up with this? And I'm like, oh, it's a part of the movie. You have to sit and watch the movie. It's great.
Yeah. Hard to explain. And speaking of pins, I'd say Godzilla-Palooza is a good place to put a pin in it, as that kind of rounds us into halfway through the season. Exhumed Films waited 3 long years to bring back Godzilla-Palooza. The love for Big G, especially at a drive-in and the drive-in setting, you cannot keep people away. And that was certainly the case. We said it, hopefully it's not another 3 years until the next one comes back, but it was a 4-night marathon run of all things Godzilla, young and old, and it was just a phenomenal event.
And we had a 12-foot, 14-foot, 18-foot Godzilla created by Jason and Riggs Miller. This giant Godzilla that was created that had a mouth that lit up, and it would make the Godzilla roar if you pushed a button, and smoke would come out of its mouth. And it was just this amazing jaw-dropping photo op off to the side of the screen that we had all that weekend. And since then,
I made a Dogzilla, and I sold 131 of those specials. I think that's my biggest special to date, was that hot dog that I made for Godzilla.
Dogzilla is genius, you know. And your specials, you've done such an amazing job with these specials, and even more so, we stepped it up with sharing them on the socials this year. And your specials and food get shared to all sorts of food sites. It's just like a lot of things here, the icing on the cake, it does wonders to spread the word of what we're doing. You know, it connects to an audience that, you know, we probably wouldn't be able to tap into with just promoting movies. Jeff, any memories from Godzilla?
No, just being in the projection booth and seeing the different reels fly by, just classic stuff. I mean, like you said, years ago when we did it, it was great. This was, you know, even better, I believe. And I'm sure when we do it again, it's going to be even better. But Godzilla just brings the people in. And it was just a treat sitting in the booth and listening to the people outside and listening to the projectors roar. And it was just a great night. Just great. Great couple of nights.
Yeah. And it's just so great to be back. As much as the wave has sucked us up, quote unquote, it is a dream every single day being here and welcoming fans into our house to love on what we all love and what we all appreciate. And getting the love back means the absolute world to us. We have the greatest fans in the world, to the point where they bring us Christmas cards for Christmas in July. They bake us cookies. It is, it's beyond love. And, you know, don't think any of that is lost. It truly fuels our fire every single day. So thank you guys so much for taking the Mahoning into your hearts, as always. Looking forward to the second half of the season, and we'll be back. Hopefully we can get Mama Beth back for the second half, because we got VHS Fest, we got Trauma. Oh my God, that could be a whole podcast in itself.
I know she has a choice Trauma story.
Yeah, we all do.
Mine's not that bad, but
yeah. On that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night, and God bless you.